Hello and welcome back. This is going to be for weeks 8 and 9 of PAWS. We did miss last week. Talk about that later. But welcome to PAWS. It's the progress and weekly stats where we celebrate the wins, the chaos, and at least one questionable decision. Consistency is a myth, cat logic is real, and progress still counts even when it's messy. So we're going to talk about what happened these last few weeks. It's been a bit of a crazy ride because last you heard from me, I was like, oh, I think I have a week off. I did end up having most of that week off, and that I wasn't too sure what was going to happen. So let's talk about what's been going on for 2 weeks of just pure and utter crazy. So the last 2 weeks were a lot. The stress was high, my energy was low, and by last Friday, not yesterday, but like last Friday, we realized that part of the problem might have been because of low blood sugar. That's new for me. I didn't test, but the moment I had some orange juice and I had a piece of candy, I was basically just snapped back to my normal self. And this is what happens when you don't eat consistently. And so lesson learned for me. If it ever happens again, I'll make sure I test so I can actually see the numbers, but wild guess of the day. Movement wise, both weeks were kind of light, to be honest. I did do some walks here and there, did a few exercises here and there, but I didn't do like my full routine. I did try, I seriously did, but the stress was heavy and my body just was not cooperating for these last 2 weeks. It was just between some kind of stress, some kind of thing, something new, my body not feeling right because I wasn't eating. Why wasn't I eating? Because I didn't feel like it. So, you know, I apparently need to learn how to do a little more if I'm not going to eat these snack, because now my now my glucose is kind of like under control and we're seeing those 100s and stuff like that. It can actually start to dip. So, you know, you need food to keep it. You not only need to eat certain kinds of foods to bring it down, like, oh, I can't really have like that Sonic sugary slushy drink, but at the same time you go the other way and it's like you start to feel a whole different way that I've never felt before, and that was a very interesting thing. To be perfectly honest, the only thing I could think about during that was back when I used to go onto TikTok, I used to watch this one guy who either used to be a firefighter or still was, or EMT or something like that. And he did these things of like things he saw, these crazy things he saw. And one of them was a firefighter comes in and he is talking to the paramedic or something. He's like, oh no, we're fine now, we're fine. He looks all beat up and everything's like a wreck, like something happened. And the guy's just over there like sipping on orange juice or something and he's all happy. And apparently he's like, no, we're fine, we just his sugars with them. So that was interesting to think of, but I was like, okay, I gotta keep a little closer eye on this. I really do need to keep track. Like I said, lesson learned. Now with all those 2 weeks, is this a failure? No. Do I keep saying, Monday I'm gonna get back on the horse? You've heard me say it multiple times. And then I just fall off the horse immediately. Yes. But here's the important part. I keep saying it with pure intention. Every week I do something. A walk here, a stretch there. And that means I'm still trying. I haven't given up. This whole year has been a lull compared to last year. A lot has happened this year. Last year was all medical. This year's all kinds of other stuff. And just, that's okay. So a lot's happened. A lot is happening. And sometimes you just have to take care of other things or take care of yourself just by resting. It's important. I missed last week's videos because I needed a mental break, but I'm here now and I'm ready to keep going. The other thing I want to talk about that happened sometime in the last 2 weeks, I think it was last week or whatever. So my Fitbit updated and is now known as the Google Health app. So let's talk about that, okay? It's officially switched over. I'm still getting used to it. Do I like it? Yes. And so, why do I like it? It's definitely prettier than the Fitbit app. And there are actually some things that make it a lot easier to see. Not that I can name it off the top of my head right now, but I do remember going, oh, that's a lot easier to see. It was a few things. Very few things. Why don't I like it? It's confusing. There's a lot of things that are harder to find. Unfortunately, they outweigh the things that are easier. And the food tracking is a disaster. And this is the thing I use to track my food. So yes, Fitbits are like mostly, oh, you count your steps and stuff. It does that part doesn't seem to change. But the food tracking was a bit of an issue. So one, when you go in and you go find your foods, not that it was, you kind of find the closest thing or whatever, it's now harder to find specific foods that match what you're eating, at least from my perspective. The other thing is you used to have multiple serving options. Like you go, okay, I had a hot dog. You could pick, did I have 1 or 2 hot dogs? Did I have 1 or 2 ounces? Did I have At least everything that I've so far gotten, there is one option. Like, did you have a hot dog? Did you have a hot dog? Like, I might have weighed ounces, or it's a different kind of hot dog, or something. I don't know. I'm just using hot dogs as an example. But, so I was like, I could go back out, find another one, see if that one has it. Okay. The other thing is that when you go in and you find the thing you want, there's a little plus button that you can press, and then you can also just press on it. Now, if you press the plus button, it just adds it. So like, we'll just use hot dogs. I don't know why. Maybe I'm craving hot dogs. But anyway, so let's say I had 2 hot dogs. I could go 1 and then press it again, 2. Easy peasy, right? Yeah. Well, there's certain foods that you're like, okay, I kind of like in my brain, I have to set it up a certain way, or I went in, or I'm not sure how many times I pressed it, or it starts out with the 1 serving is 1 ounce and you had 10 ounces. I've done it. Didn't say I was proud of it, but you say 10 ounces of that food. Well, did I press it 5 times? Did I press it 10 times? And usually, you just scroll. So it's like, okay, well, you go in, you're like, I can just edit it, right? You go in, you edit it, you do that. And then you're like, wow, that 10 ounces was like, from what I could tell, 400 calories. And Google's saying, you've eaten 950 calories. And you're like, what? You look in, and there's doubles. Getting rid of the doubles, whole different matter again. It's okay. It's all right. The other thing, and this is the thing that really gets to me, is that before, and I preferred this, we talked about what we called in these videos CAT, that calorie something something. Basically your deficiency. So, so many calories in, and depending on how many calories out you had for the day, there's a certain amount of calories you should eat if you do nothing. And then as you exercise, etc., that calorie out goes up. That means, that's why a lot of like bodybuilders and stuff like that, they end up eating, like I've seen those videos where like The Rock and how much food he eats. It's a lot. But he also does a lot because he's looking at his deficit. And the Fitbit app, you put in your food, and because your Fitbit is tracking your exercises, your steps, stuff like that, you have this little bar graph that you can see your deficit, and it'll tell you, okay, well, this is how much you've eaten, and this is how much energy you've burned. And you could, and that's where I would get those numbers from. It doesn't have that anymore. Well, it kind of does, but no. So now it gives you, just like every other app, what's your calorie goal for the day? If you've watched my videos, you realize I don't do calorie goal. I'm not at, I need to eat 2,000 calories a day. Because from what I've learned and from what I've understood and stuff like that, that is not actually helpful. Unless, it is, but it isn't, because you need that deficit. So if you are saying I need to eat 2,000 calories today, I need to eat 2,000 calories every day, and there's one day that you had like a lull and you've only burned 1,500 calories. I don't remember what the base is, don't quote me on that, but let's say you've only burned 1,500 calories and you've eaten 2,000 because that's your calorie goal, and you're like, why did I gain weight? Or better yet, how about this? Again, your calorie goal is 2,000. You hit that 2,000. You had a massive exercise day where you're building muscle and stuff like that. And all of a sudden the next day you're like, I gained weight. Why did I gain weight? You gained weight because your body's holding on to it, because now it's going into survival mode. Because now your energy burned is up here, the amount you ate is down here. There are some days where you have burned enough energy where you should be, in order to go into that calorie deficit, you know, like, anyway. So if you can't tell, I'm just slightly annoyed. But, and then, oh yeah, and then it started me off with, I don't know, it's because of my weight or whatever, your suggested calories, 3,000 a day. And I went, well, actually it said something, it had like this range, but all I know is like the max is like, I'm like, I don't eat that much on any, what? I mean, I can go reset it, but I was just kind of, so from what I'm understanding, Google is pushing like, oh, we have coaches now and you should do this calorie goal like everything else does. I don't like it. I do not. That is me. We're going to figure something out. Good news is though, it does still have your calories out, as I like to call it. It's just in a whole different place and you got to go find it. So I have tried some other things. I did try MyFitnessPal, which a lot of people say are really good. It is a good, and the good part is it connects to my Fitbit, and from what I can tell, it's updating my calories in if I put them in there. But it's kind of, I think at least, but it's kind of not it's still clunkier to me than what the old Fitbit app was. I am not a person that likes to do change, so y'all gotta give me some time on this. I will figure it out. I will keep you updated, and if I can figure out what is usable for me, I will let you know. If it ends up that the new Google Health app means that's usable for me, okay, cool. I'll explain to you how I use it. I have no clue what's gonna happen. We're gonna figure that out. It's gonna be okay. But either way, still figuring out the food tracking workflow. I am writing at least my food down most of the time. That hasn't changed. You know, just, you know, just especially weekends. I'm just so bad. Anyways, but it's not really consistent enough, the information I get, to include it in this week's video. So you'll see that we'll skip over that. I gotta figure something out. But anyway, it's a process. And again, I'll update you whenever I do have a system again. Other thing I want to talk about that happened this week. Well, kind of happened. It popped up, and I'm excited. So, as I have mentioned before, I use Copilot. I do it a lot to help me with my writings. I do it to do all the little pictures that you see. It has a certain, I love it. I really do love my little Copilot. But so a new thing popped up, and they're testing it, I guess, like the, what is it called, the beta? You think I should know alpha, beta, whatever. It's the version where it's in testing mode, and it's called Copilot Health. I'm excited for what it will be. Right now, though, it's early, I guess, like really early. But what it can do is it can connect you through your health provider if your health provider has that supported. Mine does, which is really, really, really cool. And here's what's really cool, at least with the new Google Health, is I could do that too. It's new. And I was so excited. I got last week I connected through Google Health. And I was able to say, ooh, like one of them is, guess what I found? I found my actual weight start. Remember before we all said potential? I got actual. I was off by point something. We'll find that out a little bit later. But, so through the Google Health, it did help me understand my records a little bit better. Like I was like, oh, I could find that. Like I actually found that. I looked for it again today. It took me a while, but I found it because I didn't remember where it was. So yeah, I want it in Copilot, because unlike Google where I can just go searching for it, I can go in Copilot and go, okay, well, what's this mean? And Copilot goes, oh, it means this. And it's like, oh, it's great. And so it can make me understand my labs and stuff better. So I'm so excited. But the current thing is that even though I signed in and I was pretty sure I had the password, it keeps telling my password's wrong and I can't figure out how to reset it. So we will figure that out later. But it'll be a pretty cool thing once I can get that done. The other thing that it does support is Apple Health. Well, it says it does. It's right there. It tells me I'm not connected and won't give me the option to connect it. I don't have an Apple Watch, but I do have Apple Health because I have an iPhone. So I was like, okay, cool. I can at least connect it, and not quite. And it's no option to sign. That's fine, because as we know, it is still in testing. So I want to keep checking for updates, and I'm really hoping that one of the really new soon ones will be Fitbit, because I can go in and I can get all my little sleep stuff and stuff. And I'm going to keep trying my provider login. I might have to call the office for that. That's okay. Basically, once everything's working, it'll be amazing, especially for my videos. I'm gonna be honest. Just let you know, it is separate from your main Copilot. The Microsoft named everything Copilot. Like, you have the Copilot with the chat and stuff, like the one I use for pictures. You have a Copilot in your Word, Copilot Health, Copilot in your Excel. They are all different Copilots that don't talk to each other. So if I go to my Word and I'm asking a question that I asked in the main chat, it has no clue what I'm talking about. So it's a lot of back and forth, and that is perfectly fine, because it's like this like wall in between, especially because it's like whatever, however they have it set up. It took me a little while to figure out what I was doing, but I figured it out. A little bit of back and forth, but I'm cool with it. Basically, once that Copilot Health is up, what I can do is I can go through Copilot Health, have a look at my Fitbit whenever that's all set up, and I can just copy it and I can paste it into my main Copilot, and we can go from there. I am so excited, but I haven't been able to test it yet. So we're waiting, and I can't wait till it does. Anyway, other thing I started doing and planning is it's a new shorts series. So 2 weeks ago, I started experimenting with shorts. I don't know if you all saw the first one. And it's to preview what this week's videos are about. Like, just a little, I figure I'd do that every week. I do think one of them has my social media buttons to the wrong name. I think it's actually my Canva website. It's just Blood Lily, and my mind has been so excited that everything is Blood Lily 72, except for Insta, which just has a little dot somewhere between the name and whatever. And I think I have to fix, I think it's the Canva button. It's just Blood Lily, whatever. I will figure that out. Anyway, so I've also decided, as I was thinking at least, is I'm going to start a new shorts series. It's gonna be from close to the very beginning of my journey. Basically, when I started to move and exercise, I started out by cleaning. Literally, can I clean for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? You gotta remember, I could barely walk from one room to the other at the very beginning of this. I was already unhealthy. I already had bad knees, and then the seizure happened and the cardiac arrest, and like my legs were like jello. I really couldn't do much, like getting around. So I had started out cleaning. But anyways, we're gonna start these shorts as the, I guess what you would consider normal, not normal exercises, but like what a person would consider exercises. Like, a lot of people don't look at cleaning and go, oh, that's exercise. Just let you know, cleaning is exercise. You're moving, okay? But when I'm talking about like what people think about, so people think, you know, lifting weights, exercise, cleaning, you know, that's that kind of thing. So I started like, oh, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start from what was my base routine, which is what you'll see this week, and which is just, it's simple walking. I'm gonna be on, when you see it, it's just gonna be some simple walking and how I set it up. So it's gonna start from that base routine. It's gonna be a few minutes of intentional movement. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing long, it's just the foundation. And then basically every week I'm gonna make a new short where it's going to add upon it in a slow, realistic way in tiny steps until eventually becomes basically becomes like a little 10-minute routine that I do even today whenever I have the chance. And we'll talk more about it, but this week's short will cover the base movement. Like, this is what we're starting with. Future shorts will cover each add-on one at a time. Today I'll also be making a main video that will go into the dedicated playlist that I'm going to make for these, and the main video is just going to kind of explain it a little bit more, and the main video will have a description where, as long as I remember to do it, I'll keep putting in those links of the shorts in a row. It's also something that's just mainly just pictures. Like, I won't be talking, it's just gonna be some pictures, and I had a lot of fun making those pictures. So I'm super excited, honestly, to do these new shorts. There's other things that happen that I can't really talk about, but you know, whenever I can, I will. Because the reason why I say some of these things, I know someone's like, oh, you've given out way too much information about yourself, to an extent. But, you know, part of doing these videos, as I've said before, is in hopes that somebody watches it and goes, I think I can do that too. And it helps them in their health journey and helps them become healthier, be it mentally or physically or however. And the other part is, in all honesty, if something is griping at you, basically, like you're very stressed about something or anything else like that, saying it out loud is step one. Just look in the mirror and say, or just say it, or write it down and then read it out loud. Because what happens is you actually get, sometimes some people, you know, you can just write it down and that gets it out. A lot of stuff for me, that's exactly how it works. But I've realized that by doing these videos, I am speaking out loud. And yeah, recording it, anybody can see it, I understand, but I'm speaking it out loud, and it's actually much better for my mental health that is happening. And so, just as an FYI, I'm not saying to make videos. If you want to make videos, go ahead, please let me know. I'll go watch them, because I am looking for anything that'll help me too, because I know my motivation has been not the greatest this year. So yeah, if you feel like you can make videos and you want to do it, do it. Do it for yourself, though. You know, don't take my advice for how to become, you know, a big YouTube star, because we know, obviously, I don't know how. I'm not looking to be. I just, again, this is for me. This is for people it might help, and that's about it. But, yeah. Okay, so that's my blurb for the day. So we are going to go on to 2 weeks of vitals. So I'm going to stop the video, restart it for the whole thing. Give up. And anyway, because I'm not gonna actually stop the video. I'm stopping. Long story, the thing only likes to do half-hour increments, so we're just doing that, and you'll just see a little blip, and I don't understand why I'm explaining this all, but either way, we're gonna go over basically 2 weeks worth of stuff that I have, so this video might be a little bit longer than normal, but again, it's just the vitals, so stay, go, whatever you want to do, and we're gonna do that in a second, okay? Okay, so let's get into the oh so fun part. The vitals, basically, of 2 weeks vitals, and that's what I get for missing last week, is I just have extra work, but that's okay. So we're going to talk about week 8. Yes, week 8 is going to be February 23rd to February 29th of 2026, and then week 9 is February 30th until June 5th of 2026. Again, my weeks go starting on a Saturday and on a Friday. We're going to go through this part. So the total change from 5, I can talk. Okay. So Friday the 29th, I had lost a whopping 4.9 pounds since the previous Friday, that's 22nd, or Saturday, excuse me, 22nd. And then, so that's what happened on week 8. On week 9, what I lost was, oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. Week 9, yesterday's weigh-in, I actually gained back 0.5 pounds since the weigh-in from the Saturday before. The total change, though, from 2 weeks ago is a loss of 4.4 pounds. How did that happen? I didn't eat. I do not suggest it, FYI. Again, I've always said that you want to go slow and steady, like 1 to 2 pounds a week is healthy. I was not being very healthy, especially on week 8. That's when that sugar low because of me not eating happened. Losing weight is great, but being sick because of it is not. So, yay, I lost 4 pounds. However, I would have honestly rather lost like 2 pounds and not had that nice little episode. And that's okay. So the total, so we're going to say the total loss from the first recorded, actually, maybe, I don't know if I should stop doing that since the first recorded was the first recorded by me, or if I should still do the first recorded by me, which is sometime in August or something like that last year, or this is the first recorded since 4/02/2025. That was my first doctor's appointment. We'll do both today. I'll think about it later. But basically, we'll say total loss since first recorded by me, when I first started, was 286. I've lost 58.5 pounds. And then the total loss since, now it's no longer a potential. Now I actually know the weight. So total loss since April 2nd of 2025, when my very first doctor's visit since everything happened, since this health journey started, I have lost 68.1 pounds. I don't think I've ever figured I hear that, but that's cool. I'm excited. Well, it's me. So yeah. So basically, these last 2 weeks did tell a very human story. It's one that actually fits perfectly with everything that I described in our What Happened section. So the first week, that week 8, was mostly a steady loss, even with a midweek jump. There was a midweek jump in there. You'll see the little charts and stuff that I'll make. I started out at 231.4. I ended at 227. Again, a loss of 4.4 pounds. It says the only blip was Wednesday. There was a classic stress and water retention behavior. It went up a little bit. And then my body said, okay, fine. And then it dropped again. And I did some major drops. So this did show that my body was responding to what little bit of movement I did, lower stress moments, and probably natural rhythm of my week. Even with inconsistent routines, I still trended down. Another take from Professor Calico, of course. A spike is not a failure. It is simply the body's dramatic flare. Okay. What this shows is that my body was I already talked about all that. Let's see. I have little things. I don't know. Anyway. So then we're going to talk about the second week of all this. So this was week 9. There was a gentle dip, and then there was a rebound. It started very strong. Sorry if they're sneezing. Anyways, it started very strong. Saturday to Monday, I went from 226.4 down to 225.7, which is this nice steady downward slide. By the midweek, it was still going down a little bit. Tuesday and Thursday, I went from 225.9 to 227. It went up a little bit. It went up a little bit from 225.9 up to 227.5. So it did go up 1.6 pounds, and that's absolutely normal during stress. Still having a few slight low blood, nothing like the week before. I still need to figure out what I'm doing on that one. My inconsistent eating, I was eating more in the second week, like actually eating, but I still wasn't doing that great at just, I don't know if it's because the tracker thingy, I don't know. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But either way, I ended up the week at 227.5 as of yesterday. That did go up 0.5 pounds from the week before, but it was still, from the week before that, down 4.4 pounds. So yeah, that's still low. That's a number I don't remember seeing probably since high school, I'm gonna be honest. So what this is showing is my body's reacting to stress, inconsistent meals, probably some inflammation. So this is probably not a fat gain. This was my body holding on to water because it wasn't sure what was going on. Per Professor Calico, when the human forgets to eat, the body panics. Hydration and glucose are not optional. Watch out. Yep. So the bigger picture of all this across the 2-week progress, lost 4.4, down 58.5, down 68.1, 58.5 from first recorded by me, down 68.1 since April of last year when everything happened. Maintain progress even through stress, low energy, and inconsistent routines. This is not a stall. This is not a backslide. This is a normal fluctuation inside a long-term downward trend. Body is still trending in the right direction, even when life is chaotic. So what this is saying about my journey, apparently, is that I lose weight even when my routine is even slightly stable, which is good. Stress and inconsistent meals can cause temporary rebounds. My body responds quickly when I get back into rhythm. And I'm still moving forward even when I feel like I'm not. This is the exact kind of pattern people don't talk about enough. It's the real weight loss curve, not the fantasy straight line. Per Professor Calico and her judgment, progress is progress, even when it meanders like a confused house cat. Next thing we're going to talk about is how the blood pressure went from whatever I tracked here and there. Last 2 weeks of my blood pressure readings paints a very clear picture of what is going on with me in my body. There's stress, inconsistent eating, low blood sugar levels, and generic life chaos. Yeah, general. And your blood pressure responded the same way a human body should under those conditions. Breaking it down, my week 8 average was 100/63. That's a low normal end of the spectrum. The shows is that I have low systolic numbers, which is the top number, and I have soft, I really need diastolic numbers, and I have several readings that are in the 90s and the 50s range. I have a few bounce readings when my body is trying to compensate, so it's like going this way. The readings that we do see within that week, it's from me not eating enough, it's from my low blood sugar, stress hormones, fatigue, dehydration, inconsistent hydration, the same thing as we spoke about weight. And basically it's my body saying, ma'am, we do not have enough fuel to maintain stable vascular tone. And my Professor Calico basically just told me to feed myself. Yeah. Now there's nothing here that looks actually dangerous currently, but my body is waving a little red flag saying, hey, can we get some glucose and a sandwich? Yes. Yeah. Now my week 9 started to stabilize because I finally started to take care of myself, mostly. It is a little slightly higher, but it's more regulated. My average was 108/67. It's still normal, but it's noticeably more stable than week 8. It's showing that my systolic numbers rose slightly. My diastolic numbers also came up a bit, which was good. I had some fewer dips into the 50s, the lower ones, fewer dramatic swings, more consistent mid-range readings. Yeah. And this is what happens when you eat a little more consistently. Blood sugar isn't tanking, your stress is still present, but your body isn't in emergency mode. Hydrating better, nervous system isn't yo-yoing as hard. So it just looks like my body should try to re-regulate after the chaos of week 8. Professor Calico, she says, yes, the human remembered food, excellent. Combining the 2 weeks is a very healthy average blood pressure. It's not hypertensive. It's not hypotensive in a dangerous way. My cardiovascular system is responsive. My body's adjusting appropriately to stress, food intake, and activities. And I'm in a normal, safe range overall. The dips and spikes we saw are normal psychological responses, and they're not red flags. So the fact that even though they're kind of low and there was a red flag being flagged, I still was able to kind of even myself out and we're fine. Now going along with blood pressure, because it comes from the same machine, we'll talk about the heart rate because that's another thing I have to watch. 2 weeks of heart rates, it says it's a story of just matches again the stress levels, that level, all the stuff that we talked about before. Just mention all that. The week 8, my average was 96 beats per minute. It's slightly higher than my normal baseline, but still within normal range, which is good. Especially when I'm dealing with stress, like meals, sugars, blah, blah. The fact that this is staying in a normal range is actually a good thing. Let's see here, because my heart rate readings were from the high 90s to low hundreds, a few dips into the 80s, no actual dangerous spikes. And it says classic sympathetic activation. My body was running on stress hormones and not enough fuel. Per Professor Calico, as she's been saying constantly throughout this entire video, the human is stressed and underfed. The heart is simply doing its job. Now week 9, my heart rate did go a little bit lower, which was good. It went more regulated, which is good. It did average out to 94 beats per minute, which is a sign my body, again, was trying to stabilize. It shows fewer readings over 100, more readings in the 80s and the low 90s. There were a couple of higher numbers when my stress or my activity did spike, but otherwise they were overall smoother. And again, this happens when you're more consistent, when your blood sugar isn't crashing, and Professor Calico says, yes, that is the heart that has remembered how to chill. Yes. So for the 2-week average, we have a 95 beats per minute, which is normal, healthy average for someone who's under stress, not sleeping consistently, dealing with low blood sugar, moving irregularly, juggling life chaos, is not showing signs of tachycardia, arrhythmia, cardiovascular strain, overtraining, dehydration. That's good. Simply showing stress, underfueling, inconsistent routines. Get ourselves back to normal. Medical interpretation for all this is, oh, there we go. Ooh, we got some general info. Look at this. Things I forget that are in here because I'm tired when I first make them. Anyways, my heart rate pattern just suggests that the sympathetic activation is stress hormones raising my heart rate, glucose sensitivity, low blood sugar, higher heart rate. I do, however, have a normal cardiovascular response. I have no signs of dangerous heart rate elevations. I have no signs of bradycardia. I don't know what half this stuff is whenever I have it through this. Anyways, but I have a healthy variability. My heart rate changes appropriately with activity and stress. It's exactly what a normal heart rate does when your life is chaotic. Next, we'll talk about the sugars. Again, I did not do so well at keeping up with doing the stuff I'm supposed to do, but so this is just from what we got, okay? So again, tells a clear story, and same story as all the other ones of all the stress and blah, blah, blah. Week 8 is basically in a low normal range for the times that I did look at it. It was mainly between 99 to 108. There was one higher reading at 122. Now again, those ranges, when it was in that low normal range, I don't know what it was when I started to not feel well that week, because that was the few days that I just didn't track at all because I wasn't feeling well, and I'm like, why am I going to do this? Kind of wish I did, just to know where I was at, just to know when I did do that, like how low did it dip? I don't know. It might have just been like 90. I don't know. But yeah, but from what I was seeing for week 8, it is a pattern for just exactly what we were talking about with the stress and the not eating consistently. The evening ratings were slightly higher, and that's normal. It's my body trying to stabilize apparently after, because when you underfuel, your body will try to stabilize and probably have some a little bit higher from here and there because it is trying to stabilize itself. Just say Friday, the day you felt low blood, because Friday was the day that I did the whole thing. But I felt the low blood sugar, but I didn't test. This is the numbers earlier in the week absolutely support that possibility. Per Professor Calico, if you do not feed the machine will complain. Okay. Now week 9, my blood sugars go up a little bit because I was eating mostly. So it goes up a little bit, not into a dangerous range, but it does go into a stress reactive pattern. So I had more readings in the 110 to 130 range. I did have one like high one, which I have no clue where it came from. Like I've had some high ones we talked about before, and I'm like, oh, it's because I ate right before it, and I tested right after it, which I usually do it the other way around. But I don't know where this one, I actually looked at it and went, huh, but it happens. But I had more readings in the 110 to 130 range. I had a couple of spikes. I had one at 136, 132. My evening readings were a little bit higher at 123, and basically had a more bouncy pattern, is what it's saying. This happens when, again, inconsistent eating, stress, body's recovering from a low glucose week, my routine was disrupted, and my sleep and meals did not align. So there was a jump on Monday, 136, even though I wasn't eating. Apparently it's classic. That would be a classic stress and cortisol spike. My body was running on fumes and adrenaline. Per Professor Calico, the human is stressed, the glucose is confused. Combining those 2 weeks, it shows no signs of chronic hyperglycemia, good. No dangerous lows, good. The body is reactive, not dysfunctional. the pattern that matches you, and this is a pattern that matches my life and how it works perfectly. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do when you're stressed, when you're not eating consistently, when you're tired, when you're juggling too much, when you're trying your best. It's that thing. But the readings do suggest normal glucose regulation. Good. Stress-sensitive glucose response. Makes sense. No signs of diabetes or pre-diabetes patterns. Don't think I've ever heard that before. I'll take it. Normal post-meal rises. Normal recovery after the dips. Healthy variability. The slight upward trend in my week 9 is a normal psychological response. Or physiological. I should read these things ahead of time. Physiological response to stress and inconsistent meals. Not a red flag. Next thing we're going to talk about sleep. Now this one's, I'm going to take this chance to not actually talk about how my sleep went, and we're going to explain why in a second, but to give you some updates on Google Health. Okay, long story. Okay, so just to let you know, we're kind of skipping the whole charts and stuff for sleep. I'm not putting it in here this week. It may not be for another few weeks until I figure things out. Did my Fitbit still track it with the new Google Health update? Yes, it did. Did it make it easy? No, it did not. So the app does look more useful, and your sleep thing is pretty, and it has colors, and it may be actually very, very useful once I figure out where everything is and how to read it. But right now, I'm basically just trying to read a map upside down in the dark. But this is what I've learned so far. So for anybody else that's had this update, this is what I have learned so far. It does have, now before it had the benchmarked sleep stages, like your REM and the light and the deep sleep, stuff like that. But it now has this really cool feature like below it where it's like, it did so many minutes, is this above average, below average, normal. Ah, cool. So that's a cool feature. I like that. It was already there, but they just kind of upped it a bit. That, or I just never noticed it. I don't know. It does have sleep quality metrics, which I did like. So it was like time to fall asleep, amount of time you had sound sleep, amount of time you were restless, amount of time you had interruptions. And it's same thing, it's kind of like that benchmark section. So this is a benchmark that has these little like charty things and a benchmark like lines. And so that was pretty cool. It did the same thing as that. Uses the colors, the little notes like this is above, this is below, whatever. Here's the only problem. If that category name is too long, and then this like average, like I think it says maybe something other than average, like below average, it cuts off the time. And then if you click on it, because you're like, if I click on it, it'll show me the time, right? Give me a little more information. Well, it tells you what it means, like basically, like let's say we're looking at, what are we looking at? Time to fall asleep. This is what time to fall asleep means, but it doesn't give you information about that day specifically. So it cuts it off and you're just sitting there going, I don't know. It's okay. But yeah, so it's whenever that happens, you don't actually get the time. Thanks for trying, Google. We're getting there though. The other thing I want to talk about is what I like to call second sleep. So these are the times when I take a nap, basically. So, you know, I slept 5 hours the night before, I was really, really tired, and I passed out for another 3 or something like that. So some days when I was looking at it, because at first I was like, I thought it wasn't in there at all, like maybe it put everything together. Because there was one day that had like, I slept from 8 to like 12, it must have been a weekend, I don't remember. And I was like, I don't remember sleeping that long. And it's like, well, you were up for 5 hours. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, second sleep means that it was like, okay, well, you were up for this amount of time and then you fell back asleep, and it's all in the same thing. And then I noticed as I was looking through some things, there's actually a second sleep in another one, and it doesn't have the same graphy thing. I was like, okay. So it's not really obvious. I mean, we had it before, but it was kind of like more, I mean, you still had to scroll, but it was kind of like more like obvious. So it's not really obvious finding it. And I'm not sure, like before you had like a total sleep time for the day. I don't know if that's part of the top one or if they're just, I have no clue. It's basically a scavenger hunt, and I'm gonna figure it out. But yeah, I'm not sure. Another cool feature, it does have a nighttime heart rate, and basically gives you your heart rate throughout the night, and you get a little graphic thing. Again, not sure if that was there before, but I was like, that's cool. You just gotta find it. It should still be in that sleep thing. It's like a short little scroll thing, but I don't know. There's another one that says time in bed and tells you how long you spent in the bed, which is a choice. I can spend all day in bed. I'm not sure how useful it is, but it's there, and I don't know how it really knows I'm in bed other than when I'm falling asleep, because I've had days I spend all the time. I don't know. I really don't know. That one kind of, it seemed pretty cool, but I don't really know. Bottom line of all this, though, for the sleep feature of your Fitbit or my Fitbit or the Google Health, a feature does need some more time. I need more time figuring out. They'll probably be pushing out updates as things do whenever they normally update. Between the stress and the app change and the last 2 weeks being so rough, I'm not ready to decode the new sleep system yet. So we're going to figure out the sleep section later. Once I've had time and my brain cells come back to sit down and make sense of it, we'll add it back in. Per Professor Calico, the human slept, the app is simply being dramatic. So yeah. Let's talk about steps. I think it's by some of the lowest steps I've had in a while. It's okay. It's okay. Just to let you know, in the app, it does seem like this is mostly unchanged than it was from Fitbit app to the Google, and that's cool. So, but anyway, last 2 weeks, it tells, again, the familiar story. It matches my stress levels, so on and so on and so forth. Life is lifing. But let's break it down. So week 8 is what we're going to call on trying, but also life week. I did average for week 8, 4,830 steps a day. Honestly, solid considering, again, stress and low blood sugar and not really moving. I had 2 strong days, Saturday and Monday. One of them was very strong on Tuesday. And then I had a midweek crash, which is what happens when your body is running on fumes. Wednesday, I only had 487 steps because I couldn't get out of bed. It's not failure. That is my body just said no day. Per Professor Calico, human attempted movement, the body vetoed. Week 9, I had a lower average, but they had more even steps. I averaged 4,307 steps a day, a little bit lower than week 8, but my steps were more consistent throughout the week. I didn't have any 10K days, but I also didn't have as many dramatic dips. Only kind of more dramatic dip I had was yesterday on Friday. I had 829 steps, and this is a classic, I'm tired and I'm done day. Like, I was done. I was so tired. It's so much crap. Anyway, it just shows, the week shows more mid-range days, fewer extreme days, my body trying to stabilize after the chaos of week 8. A little bit more rest. And this is what recovery looks like. It's not flashy, it's not perfect, but it's steady. And again, Professor Calico, the human walked enough to maintain basic function acceptable. Now combining 2 weeks, the steps show I'm still moving even when I'm stressed. My body responds well when I have energy. I don't give up even on low days. I'm maintaining a baseline of activity, not backsliding even through the chaos. That's a plus. 2 week average across both weeks was roughly 4,568 steps a day. Perfectly respectable baseline during a stressful period. This is not a slump. It's basically maintenance mode, and maintenance during stress is a win. And we talked about that's basically the same thing. Next is gonna be water. This is gonna be based off of whatever water I tracked. Now, I know I usually say, oh, I only track whenever the bottle's finished. Well, these last 2 weeks, I tracked when I also remembered. Yeah, I actually did drink more water, just, I don't know. Anyway, same story. So week 8, average 40 ounces a day. Not bad. Not what I want to be at. Definitely should be drinking a lot more. But 40 ounces a day for the days that I and then there's some days that I tracked that I did get 80 ounces in the day. There's some days I didn't track at all. Yeah. Professor Calico just says the human drank water, the human did not record water. Those are different problems. So, I don't know. Again, that's just what I tracked. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I drank more than that, and just a lot of days I would finish up my thing and just not even care. Because, that's what happens. Now, week 9 was a little more consistent. I do show more hydration for what I tracked, at least. I averaged 54 ounces a day, noticed improvement, more consistent drinking. I had a few days that I was putting in not available because I didn't track. I did have a big hydration day of 96 ounces, and I seem to return for most days back to my normal 64 to 80 ounces a day. Kind of depends on what water bottle I have sometimes. Because some are 32-ounce water bottles, some are 40-ounce water bottles, and I don't know. But yeah, Professor Calico, human, remember water, excellent. Now across the 2 weeks, my water intake does show I'm still hydrating even when I'm stressed. I'm maintaining a baseline at least. I'm not backsliding. Doing better in week 9 than week 8, so that's a good. And the real intake is definitely higher than what's logged. Because as always, again, I only track when the water bottle is finished. And again, I also just didn't track even when the water bottle is finished these last 2 weeks a lot of times. So I can't promise you those numbers are even correct. I can tell you that's at least the least amount I drank. We'll go with that. How's that sound? Yes. Soup. Next, we're going to talk about the calories in versus calories out. This is going to be a needless section that we're going to be skipping this week and a few probably weeks to come. So as we mentioned in the What Happened This Week section, the new Google Health app really did a number on my food tracking. Old Fitbit setup made it easy to see calories in versus calories out on one screen. Now it's split, confusing. The food tracker itself is, let's just call it a work in progress. Due to this and the other apps I've found so far that I've tested, I couldn't reliably track my calories in. The calorie goals system is not how I track, 2,000 calories a day. It's not how I track. We've said this many times. Entries I did make were messy or duplicated, because I didn't always catch that it duplicated itself. And the calorie out screen is now a completely different place, so I can't just compare and go, oh, maybe I should have a smaller dinner. So for now, we're just going to skip this section until I can find a food tracking app that actually works for me. I'll test out a few options. We'll find one that's simple and fast. It doesn't shove a calorie goal in my face, and compare it to the calories out, which are still in the Google app, the Fitbit Google app. It's just buried somewhere else. Well, technically, I'll tell you guys. Yeah. And once I have a system that makes sense again, I'll bring this section back. And of course, I want to keep you updated. So when you know what I'm using, or when I know what I'm using, you'll know what I'm using. How's that sound? Yeah. Professor Calico says the human has attempted to track calories. The app refused. This is not the human's fault. Yeah. So let's go over a weekly overview. Let's see here. And this is Professor Calico's weekly overview, as we do. And again, this is going to be for weeks 8 and 9 from May 23rd to June 5th. And the professor is adjusting her little pink glasses. She's going to tap her clipboard and she clears her throat with the authority of a cat who has graded far too many human weeks. She says, class, we have much to discuss. The last 2 weeks were a masterclass in human physiology under duress, staring at you. A determined but slightly frazzled creature who keeps trying even when the universe throws wrenches, stress, glucose dips, and cursed app redesigned directly at your face. So let's review the evidence. General performance, chaotic neutral, still passing. Stress was high, energy was low, food was optional, apparently, and by Friday your glucose said, ma'am, we are shutting down for maintenance. But I still walked, stretched, moved, tracked when I could, and rested when needed. Came back anyways. Not failure, this is persistence with flair. Weight had a downward trend despite the chaos. Lost 4.4 across the 2 weeks, even with the stress spikes, water retention, and inconsistent meals. Your body said, we're stressed, we're confused, we're holding water, Okay, fine, we'll drop it. A meandering but undeniable downward line, very cat-like, very on brand. Blood pressure was low, soft, and dramatic. Week 8, 100/63. Week 9, 108/67. Translation, week 8, feed me. Week 9, thank you for the crumbs. Your cardiovascular system is doing exactly what it should, responding, adjusting, and occasionally sighing at you. Heart rate, stressed and stabilizing. Week 8, 96. Week 9, 94 beats per minute. Your heart was basically narrating your life. Week 8, we're running on fumes and vibes. Week 9, you have remembered snacks. Good. No danger, no red flags, just the body reacting to life like normal human body does. Now, glucose, low normal, stress relative reactive. Week 8, 107. Week 9, 116. Week 8 was the I forgot to eat week. Week 9 was the I remembered to eat sometimes week. Glucose behaved exactly as expected. It dipped when it was underfueled, spiked when I was stressed, stabilized when fed. Machine works, the operator must have sex. Steps, maintenance mode achieved. Week 8, 4,830 a day. Week 9, 4,307 a day. Not flashy, not perfect, but consistent, even during stress. This is not what long-term success actually looks like. It's not intensity, but maintenance during chaos. Water, better than it looks. Week 8, 40 ounces a day. Week 9, 54 ounces a day. And since you only tracked finished bottles, and bottles remembered, the real number is higher. Ruling, hydration acceptable, logging questionable. Calories in versus calorie out. The app has failed this class. The Google Health app has been sentenced to detention. Food tracking broken, confusing, inconsistent, unhelpful, and possibly haunted. You are excused from this assignment until further notice. 9, short series. Talked about the thing. Approved for publication. Your new short series stating from the post-cleaning actual exercise era is realistic, relatable, scientifically sound, and narratively satisfying. Professor approves. Despite stress, chaos, glucose rebellion, and an app redesign clearly engineered by gremlins, the human continues to show resilience, effort, and a refusal to quit. Progress was made, patterns were learned, snacks were rediscovered. This week receives a grade of A for effort, B+ for physiology, and S tier for dramatic flair. Continue. Thanks, Professor. Next we're going to talk about measurements. I did keep up on my measurements. I don't know how, because I thought I did pics last week, and apparently I didn't, but I did do my measurements. Anyway, last 2 weeks were steady, realistic progress weeks, nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, just body doing exactly what it's doing whenever it's healing, recovering, and slowly strengthening body, as body does. Week 8 showed small but meaningful drops in several areas, especially the bust, the waist, and the thighs. Even though the week itself was chaotic and tracking was lighter, it was one of those quiet progress weeks where numbers shift even when life is messy. Week 9 was more stable. Most measurements stayed in the same or moved to very small amounts, which is completely normal after a couple of whirlwind weeks. A few areas went up slightly. Hello to my calves and bust. A few went down, waist, thighs, and hip. And overall, though, it balanced out into a gentle half-inch loss for the week. Across both weeks, the trend is still downward, slow, steady, consistent. And from the baseline, I'm sitting at 25.5 inches lost total, which is huge. These 2 weeks weren't flashy, but they were solid. They show maintenance, stabilizations, and my body is settling into a new routine. Exactly what we want as we head into week 10. So next week, we're near the end of the video now. Hey, yay, it's a long one, I told you. Anyways, next week's forecast is going to be very mysterious, uncertain, potentially chaotic, potentially great, potentially both at the same time. In other words, it's a classic me week. Right now, I don't have a clue what's coming up next week. Honestly, that's part of the charm. Maybe good things will happen. Maybe Monday I'll do what I'm supposed to do and actually get back on that horse and keep going riding throughout that week. And maybe I'll fall off the horse and fall on my butt on the ground. I don't know. We're going to find out. The plan is to do good. But as we've seen, plans get sidelined. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that's possible. I'll just forget altogether because, again, not the greatest memory. Then I'll remember, and then I might forget again, and then I'll do it anyway out of spite. We'll find out together. This week is a surprise for us all, including me. Professor Calico's official prediction: the human will accept structure. Life will intervene. Progress will still occur. Whatever happens, document it. Chaos counts as data. So next week's pause will reveal what this week decided to be. Productive, messy, surprising, or all the above. And honestly, that's the fun of it. What's life if you know what's going to happen all the time? So, this is the end of this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Because if I'm dragging myself back here next week, you're coming with me. Progress counts even when it's messy, inconsistent, or powered entirely by snacks and spite. And if you're following along this chaotic little wellness journey, you might as well stick around, because apparently we're all finding out what happens next together. See you next week.